Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Wednesday, halfway through another week, just 2 days away now from Arsenal's big Premier League season opener at Brentford on Friday night. We'll be speaking to Mikel Arteta tomorrow morning, bright and early, 8:30 a.m, ahead of that game against Brentford. Mikel's first proper press conference of the new season. Certainly should be some interesting points to come from that if he's in a talkative mood, and you never really know when it comes to Mikel Arteta. Certainly wasn't after the game against Tottenham at the weekend, but it's a little bit more relaxed this time because he'll be at London Colney, and you always get a little bit more out of him at these type of press conferences rather than the post-match press conferences when all he wants to do is get home. You'd think there'll certainly be plenty of talk about transfers, bit of team news as well. Certainly interesting to see exactly what's going on with Gabriel, see if we can get a bit more of a update in terms of when he might be back. But you would think at this stage of the season that there's going to be a lot of talk about potential transfers, ins and outs, and you would imagine there'll be stuff about Martin Odegaard, perhaps Aaron Ramsdale. He never really talks about these players, but I'm sure he'll certainly get some questions about that. But certainly Joe Willock, what's going on with Joe, and I'll talk about those players a little bit throughout this video. I thought we'd start on Martin Odegaard today, a player who we all know Arsenal would love to bring back after his loan spell last season. He was always a priority this summer to try and get Odegaard back. It looked like that wasn't going to be able to happen. Real Madrid seemed like they were going to be keeping him, but there are murmurings coming out of people in Madrid right now that stance may have changed, and that Odegaard certainly might be pushing for a move away now before the start of the season, or certainly before the end of the transfer window, and that Madrid might be willing to cash in on one or two players. I was talking to our guy over in Madrid yesterday. He's obviously very, very closely connected with the club over there, and he seemed to think 2 or 3 might go out before the end of the transfer window as Madrid look to free up space and bring some money in. He was talking about Odegaard and saying certainly Real Madrid would prefer a permanent deal rather than another loan for Odegaard, because his contract's up in 2023, so it wouldn't be ideal going out on loan unless he signed a new contract before he went away. And I think certainly if Real Madrid indicate to Arsenal, I've said this before, if Madrid suddenly came around today or tomorrow and indicated to Arsenal, look, Odegaard's available, do you want to have a go at him? And I'm pretty sure Arsenal would go for Martin Odegaard. Just because Mikel Arteta loves him. He made a big impression when he was here on loan with Arteta, with his coaching staff. Made a big impression on a lot of people. I know some fans aren't too keen on the idea of Odegaard coming back. I can't say I certainly wouldn't turn my nose up at him. I think I'd probably prefer James Maddison. If you ask me, one of the two, I'd err on the side of Maddison, I think, because he would provide more of a goal threat, although I still do think that Odegaard at just 22, he's got the room to certainly add a lot more goals to his game. He's good enough to do that. James Maddison's almost a finished article, though, certainly when it comes to the Premier League, so you kind of feel like he would fit straight into this Arsenal team, so I'd probably go towards Maddison. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with Odegaard. The thing is, though, that Dani Ceballos has picked up a bit of an injury right now, and given Madrid's squad isn't the biggest this season, it doesn't look like they're going to be doing too much in terms of bringing players in. The fact that Ceballos could be set for a bit of a spell on the sidelines right now, that might change Real Madrid's thinking towards Odegaard and make them definitely keep him, certainly for the first half of the season. So we'll have to keep an eye on that situation. But Odegaard's certainly out there. We've talked about James Maddison as well. Obviously, he's an option for Arsenal. He's a player they're interested in. Don't think it's ever got to the stage yet of actually official talks with Leicester. Everything that's going on is going on with agents and intermediaries and that sort of thing. But Arsenal running out of time now. We got about 3 weeks, just over 3 weeks left of the transfer window, and they have to sort out. I said it in the last video. The priority has to be absolutely clear right now. They've got to bring in some creativity. They've got to add a bit of goal threat to that final third. Do something different, because certainly what we saw against Spurs at the weekend was very, very similar to what we saw last season. And you just think they're going to struggle to score goals unless they do something pretty drastic in the transfer window in the next few weeks. Another priority, obviously, is the goalkeeping situation at Arsenal. We know that they want to bring in another goalkeeper. They have to bring in another goalkeeper. If something happened to Bernd Leno right now, they'd be in deep, deep trouble. Alex Runarsson is not good enough. It's not being harsh. It's just true. We know that. We've seen enough of him already since he's come to Arsenal. It's a transfer that hasn't worked. He's not up to the required standard, and Arsenal need to get in another goalkeeper to compete with, or even possibly replace Bernd Leno, certainly at the end of the season when you'd think Leno's more than likely going to move on. And Aaron Ramsdale is a goalkeeper they're interested in. I spoke in the last video about Andre Onana. Nothing's happened with Andre in terms of Arsenal for a long, long time now. People that I know who are close to the Onana camp are very, very surprised that Arsenal haven't followed up their interest in Onana since the verdict of the doping case. The feeling is that perhaps Arsenal were hoping that ban he's got was going to be reduced even more and it'd be available straight away rather than having to wait until November for him to start being able to play. But they are surprised that they haven't followed up their interest, because they were very, very convinced that Arsenal were going to make a major play for Andre Onana after the talks that had been held leading up to that hearing at the Court of Arbitration for Sport. It hasn't happened, and Aaron Ramsdale certainly appears to be the first choice target for Arsenal now. He's a goalkeeper they're interested in. Didn't play, interestingly, for Sheffield United last night in their League Cup games against Carlisle, which means he wouldn't be cup tied for that competition. Certainly wouldn't be a deal breaker, you would think, but it's raised a few eyebrows certainly on social media. I saw last night people commenting on it. I mean, I don't think that Arsenal aren't going to not sign him just because he's played in the League Cup and he's cup tied, because Arsenal could end up getting knocked out of the League Cup in their first game that they play in it. So it doesn't really make a difference if he plays or not. But it's an interesting one. Not even on the bench. So maybe there's something to read into it. I don't know. But at this stage of the season, everyone reads something into everything, don't they? But that's certainly one to keep an eye on, the attacking midfielder and the goalkeeping situation between now and the end of the transfer window. Still no news on Joe Willock and whether he will be completing his move to Newcastle. All indications are that he will. That fee's been agreed between Arsenal and Newcastle, like we reported a few days ago. It's just down to Willock to finish things off with Newcastle and get that sorted. Some interesting comments from Rio Ferdinand speaking on his YouTube channel about the situation. He says, "I don't know how Arsenal have let Joe Willock go. The guy scores goals from midfield. I really like him. I don't understand that. Newcastle have done unbelievably well to get him. I think he's a really good talent. He scores goals. He expects to score. He's a good mover. He makes good runs into the box. At the moment with Arsenal, I know they're building and Arteta is trying to build something and he's setting the foundations, but they're in no man's land." Quite strong words there from Rio Ferdinand. I don't think you can really complain about too many of them. I can understand that plenty are surprised about Joe Willock and the decision to let him go. I can see it both ways for me. I think at the end of the day, whether Arsenal live to regret selling Joe Willock is going to depend on his performances for Newcastle. It could well be Emi Martinez situation, which obviously that transfer looks worse by the week, or it could be an Alex Iwobi situation where that transfer looks better by the week. Ultimately, it's going to depend on Joe Willock and how he performs for Arsenal, but I can see why Arsenal are going to have agreed to sell him. It's reluctant. I think there's certainly a lot of players that have preferred to sell before Joe Willock, but they haven't had offers for these players, and any offers that have arrived haven't been good enough. Joe Willock, they're looking at a fee of around £25 million all in. And in a summer like this summer, when money's very tight, when they want to do some more business between now and the end of the transfer window, if someone's putting £25 million on the table, it's very hard to say no to when no one else is offering anything else for any of your other players who perhaps you prefer to sell instead. So I can absolutely understand why Arsenal have done it. It is a worry, it is a concern. You do look at it and think, oh no, are they going to live to regret this in 6 months' time when he's banged in 15 goals already this season and Arsenal have barely scored a goal from midfield? But ultimately, as I said, it's going to depend on him, and also it's going to depend on who Arsenal get in to use that money to. Because if they don't use that money, then it's a disaster of a signing. They need to use that money. If they're going to sell Joe Willock, then they need to make sure they're using that money they've received to bring in someone who adds to the squad. If they don't do that, then it's just an absolute shocker, and it's a dereliction of duty from Arteta, from Edu, from Richard Garlick, from the board. But if they do get the money in and they do use it wisely and they do use it to bring in a Maddison or an Odegaard and they go on to be a success, then you'll look back on it and thinking it was a decent deal. So only time will tell whether Arsenal made a mistake or not with Joe Willock, but I can certainly see it from Rio Ferdinand's point of view and plenty of your points of view. I see it in the comments below, but I can also see it from Arsenal's point of view and why they've done it this summer when it comes to Willock. Tammy Abraham, another player being linked, getting lots of questions about Tammy. Not really much for me to add on this one. He's a player that Arsenal are interested in. He's a player who would be pretty interested in coming to Arsenal by all accounts. He's an Arsenal fan, but there's strong interest in him from elsewhere. Teams that are willing to put down quite a bit of money. Roma, Atlanta have seemed to have pulled out of the race, but Roma are very, very committed to get a deal done for Tammy Abraham. Whether Arsenal match that, we'll have to wait and see. Whether Tammy Abraham's wishes end up playing a big part in what's going to happen with him, we'll have to wait and see. At the moment, he's away with Chelsea anyway, so it's not like Chelsea are shoving him out the door. He's away with them for the Super Cup over in Dublin. They're playing Villarreal tonight, and he's part of that 24-man travelling squad. So lots of questions about Tammy Abraham, but again, it's just a bit of a waiting game when it comes to him, and I don't think Arsenal can really do anything with Tammy or any other striker unless they move someone on. As it stands, from what I understand, I've not heard anything that suggests that Arsenal are close to selling Alexander Lacazette yet. And so I think until maybe that happens, then I can't see another striker coming in. I'd be very, very surprised. A little bit of movement in the last couple of days on a couple of young players who've got out. Talaj Bola, he's been at Arsenal since he's 9. I think he's 22 now. Never made his debut. Bola, he always just missed out. He's had a few loan spells recently, but he's joined Rotherham on a permanent deal, and Jordi Osei-Tutu heading to Nottingham Forest on loan if that deal can be wrapped up. I like Jordi Osei-Tutu, I have to say, decent right back. He's had a good couple of loan spells out, never really got an opportunity at Arsenal, or hasn't had an opportunity at Arsenal, which a lot of people thought was a little bit unfair, but he's heading to Nottingham Forest on loan if that deal can be done. So a couple of bits of movement there with the young players. Before I go on this one, just a little quick one on team news as it stands. Obviously, we don't know the full extent of Gabriel yet. It's going to be interesting at Mikel Arteta's press conference on Thursday morning to find out exactly what's going on with him, how long he could be out for. Thomas Partey is still about 3 weeks away, or just under 3 weeks away from his ankle injury, from returning to training. Eddie Nketiah a little bit further behind Thomas Partey, so probably about 3 and a bit weeks away from Eddie Nketiah. Gabriel Martinelli, though, is back. He's back training, back straight to it after the Olympics, and you've got to think he could be an option to certainly be involved this weekend. Given Eddie Nketiah's injury, he could certainly come into contention to play on Friday night, given he's back at the training ground. He's back working hard, and Gabby, the guy's always fit and always ready, so it'll be interesting to see if he is involved or not. Right, everyone, thank you very much for your time. As always, please do enjoy the rest of your week. Like I said, we'll be speaking to Mikel Arteta tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. We'll try and do a video after that to discuss what Mikel had to say and give my opinion on some of the big talking points that come from that press conference. Until then, everyone, have a very good day. I'll speak to you soon.